Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to bring you one of our favorite series, the If We're Being Honest series. For this episode, we are going to talk about a very topical subject in WWE right now, and that is, of course, the Last Time Is Now tournament. And just a reminder, the point of these episodes is basically to bring up a topic that both KP and I are very passionate about. We let it rip, uncut, unrehearsed, and without any edits, and no muting as well, which is another bit. KP, you ready for this one?
Absolutely ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. So with Friday night's results coming in, we now have Penta beating Finn Balor, as well as the surprising Carmelo Hayes beating Bronson Reed. So we are now down to 8, or should I say 7? And I think that's a good place to kind of kick off the topics. Sheamus being injured, which again, I don't know if that's kayfabe or not, but now this is the second time LA Knight is facing an unknown opponent. Perhaps a disadvantage. Are we going to see like a corporate versus LA Knight storyline here? I'm not sure. KP, any idea who that replacement could be?
So, nope, absolutely not certain who this could be. I think that logically it would make sense to have somebody who isn't really a big surprise to be this opponent for LA Knight, purely for the fact that they will be given a bye. So I would maybe expect to see possibly Shinsuke Nakamura perhaps in the next round. That just makes sense. Sheamus, he beat Nakamura and he didn't get through to the next. Well, he got through to the next round. Now he's injured. Surely it just makes sense for Nakamura to go through on instead of Sheamus. So I guess we see what happens there. That would be my logical choice. That just makes sense considering the tournament tree. But yeah, in terms of anybody else, I'm not entirely certain who I would put in. But I think Nakamura just makes the most sense for me. Do you have anything other sort of like groundbreaking, like a sort of like a thing that you think it could be this person for like a particular reason, or do you think maybe the same as me?
Well, I think you could play it either way, really. You could bring in someone bigger and then have them, if they are to beat LA Knight. I think you could kind of. It's just very coincidental that LA Knight's now had two mystery opponents. It could be just pure coincidence, but I could also see them kind of building something here. Perhaps reading too much into it, but whoever it is, I think LA Knight should win. So in that case, I wouldn't be mad with a Nakamura in there, or just some other person, maybe like a Rey Mysterio kind of thing. I wouldn't be mad at that either. Um, as long as LA Knight, I think if he doesn't, you know, go on, I think it should be made a big deal about how he was kind of screwed over. So, however they want to play that, but I think LA Knight is probably the right call there. Uh, on to the other side of that side of the bracket, Jey Uso and Rusev. Um, what you got on that one, KP?
I mean, Jay and Rusev, I think there's only one way I would personally go with that, and I would go Rusev to win. I think that when is this match going to be taking place? It's not on Monday, is it? Is it the Monday afterwards? I don't actually remember.
Yeah, I don't think it's tomorrow. I think I would assume. Yeah, I would assume next Monday by default. Then, yeah.
Because I would assume if it hypothetically speaking, if it was tomorrow, then you could say the same thing would happen to Carmelo Hayes. Well, to Bronson Reed, sorry. And we get all the sort of War Games guys involved, and Jay ultimately
Yeah,
would
yeah,
get his match
yeah.
cost, and Rusev would advance because of that. Right place, right time situation. But I have a feeling it's
Yeah,
not. I think it's the Monday after. I think there's a 5 versus 5 tag match, I think has been announced, something like that. I don't know if I'm making
yeah.
that up. I think I saw something about that last night. So yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be next week. So in terms of Jay and Rusev, I mean, I'd still go with Rusev to win, but I can genuinely see Jay Uso winning instead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would prefer Rusev. I think we can both say that pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
But Jay winning also wouldn't be surprised. And on that note, though, with the Survivor Series War Games teams, you could make the case, or Survivor Series too. You could make the case that that could come into play there. You could make the case that it could come into play in the Sokoa match with the 5-on-5
Mm.
traditional Survivor Series. Team Sammy could come into play on that one. And you could also make the case that maybe the vision is pretty teed off that Bronson Reed didn't advance on Friday and come back to cost Carmelo Hayes. So hopefully they don't take that easy out in all of those, but you could definitely, obviously, with the timing of this tournament, you could make the case that that could come into play. Um, but I think the biggest opportunity of that taking place again would probably be the solo Sokoa Penta match. Obviously, Sokoa has a ton of enemies right now. Any chance Penta comes out of that one?
Um, I think I think ultimately this one could depend on what roster it's on. So if this one's on SmackDown, obviously you've got everybody there, that's sort of involved. You've got the likes of Sami Zayn, Motor City Machine Guns, Ray Phoenix, and literally Penta's against Solo Sikoa. So Ray Phoenix, especially here, could have like a very big sort of motive to absolutely
Right.
cost Solo Sikoa on all costs. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah, I think if it's on SmackDown, I'd probably say it would be Penta to win just because of everything that's going on at the moment. Um, but I think because obviously we've got that 5 vs 5 traditional tag team match next Friday, so it's not going to be
Yep.
then. Probably going to be the week after.
Yep.
So I think if it was on Raw, Solo probably does edge it because I don't think Penta's really got anybody on Raw that's sort of there to help him out, sort of thing. Whereas Solo can bring anybody with him. So I think it does make more sense for Solo to win on Raw, but also for Penta to win on SmackDown. So it depends on which brand it is. Weirdly enough, the away brands for both individuals. So quite interesting that one. Yeah, what are you thinking? I'm probably going to go with Penta to win. I think that's my more likely situation. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I prefer Penta. Solo's absolutely killing it though on the promos lately with MFT,
Yeah,
but I think he's just got too many things going on. So I think that makes more sense. And recall, Solo has already beaten John Cena before.
he has.
And at the time, everyone thought, "Oh, this guy's the next, Rock or Roman Reigns." But that didn't pan out for whatever reason. Actually, you could argue the opposite effect had that on that match. Um, so yeah, it seems like we're pretty much on the same page here. But let's get into the last matchup of this round, and for me, probably one I'm looking forward to most. The Ring General going up against Carmelo Hayes, who had that shocking upset on Friday. Who do you got coming out of that one?
So the short answer is Gunter. But honestly, I would rather Carmelo Hayes get the win here, purely for the fact that if you ask me who needs to go and win this tournament
Mhm.
to face John Cena in his last match, I'd say honestly, Gunter's probably the least that needs
Yeah,
it. I just don't think he
yeah,
absolutely has to have that opportunity. Sure, he's
yeah,
amazing. He's quality. He's one of my absolute favorites. So I can't say I dislike him. But
yeah,
I think just when you look at the bracket, you look at someone like probably Jey Uso, Gunter. I think they're the two that lead it the least in this one. Whereas everybody else really could sort of like make a really big stake here to get into a much bigger position on the card. So someone like Carmelo Hayes got a lot to really offer in his career. Whereas Gunter, we've already seen a lot of his prime. We've already seen him being the world champion on 2 occasions. We've already seen him have a really good Intercontinental Championship run. And if John Cena still got the IC title, then that match realistically would be for the IC Championship, which just makes sense.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I really, really think that it should be Hayes, but I'm absolutely certain Gunter will win. That's just where my head's at.
Yeah, it would be really cool to see Carmelo Hayes win. I think, as you kind of alluded to, he has a much more to gain and kind of in jockeying for position. Carmelo Hayes beating John Cena would feel much more like a big deal, at least to me. Gunther beating him, I don't think that would be a huge surprise, and as you alluded to, wouldn't really help him that much in the grand scheme of things. Which is crazy how fast we've come to say that, because when this whole thing first got announced with John Cena's retirement tour, people going who should beat him, who should beat him, and I think Gunther was one of the most popular options, saying that would help catapult him into superstardom. But I think we can make the case that he's already kind of there. Maybe not all the way up there, but he's definitely closer than a lot of other people. So, argue probably a lot of people, if not everyone on this remaining in this tournament. So, um,
Absolutely. If you don't mind me quickly just intervening here a second, you just made a really good
yeah,
point that I want to just sort of like double up on. You mentioned Gunter expected to beat John Cena. On the back of that, I think you could probably say that everybody else in this tournament, would you expect them to beat John Cena? I don't know if you really could say that about most of these guys. Like Carmelo
yeah,
Hayes, I think
yeah,
beating Cena would be a surprise. Same with probably Solo Sikoa at this point. Um, Maybe Rusev as well, and possibly Penta. Um, I don't know about LA Knight. I think maybe they could have just a general back. Like I think you could argue it could go either way in that one, but this is like irrelevant of last time is now tournament. If you put any of these guys against Cena on just like regular Raw or regular SmackDown, I think you probably would expect Cena to beat
yeah,
most of them. I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd agree.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I so on the other side of that coin, essentially, and the same point you're making is everyone else beating John Cena feel like a big deal to have that. But whereas Gunther beating him, be like, okay, well, yeah, that's about what I expected. So
Yeah,
it's just crazy how far we've come so quickly with Gunther. Definitely one of the bigger stars on WWE right now.
for sure.
Um, so with that. Well, I'm not sure. I guess my official pick, I guess, would be Gunther. Although I really want Hayes to win, but I do think Gunther. So with that, we have a final four, if we're correct, of Gunther, Penta, Rusev, and Knight. So I would assume that would be then Gunther and Knight in the finals. Does that seem realistic?
I personally think it probably would be Jey Uso in that matchup instead of Rusev, but I want it to be
Oh, okay.
Rusev. Um,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay.
I would probably go on the fact that Knight would be either Jey or Rusev. Like I would hope that would be the case in my personal opinion. So
Yeah.
I guess it is irrelevant for me in that sense anyway.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, Knight and Gunter I think would be the final two out of that one. If it was Gunter and Penta, I think Gunter would win that one. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
Knight against Gunter in the final two for me personally.
Yeah. I think because I definitely don't want to see Uso Gunther. I don't want to see that again.
No, we don't need
That
that.
would feel that would feel like a bit anticlimactic. But Knight and Gunther, that would be huge. I think LA Knight finally getting that kind of momentum, and Gunther, acting like he deserved, and it was never a question whether he was going to be there either. That kind of writes itself. That would be a ton of fun. So then, I think let's make the case for both. Then, if LA Knight is to win going up against John Cena, how do you see that playing out? And if it's Gunther, how do you see that playing out?
I think that no matter which of those two were to win, if it was Knight and Gunter in those final two, and obviously they go up against each other, I think that probably either man does beat John Cena. I think that would be probably the right call. I think Cena would probably want to put somebody over on his way out anyway, and if he is the Intercontinental Champion at that point, it just does make sense for it to be the Intercontinental Championship match, and for to have him drop the belt because otherwise he's gonna retire as the champion, and then it's just going to get vacated, and then it feels like it's possibly a waste opportunity. You pass it on to someone like LA Knight, especially. I feel like LA Knight can do something with it, and he can roll with that. And I think it would probably be beneficial for him to do that. And he's always got the bragging rights of being, the last ever person to have beat John Cena. So I think for whoever does win it, you could obviously play the same exact way to Gunter here. He's going to milk those bragging rights. He will always say that he beat John Cena in his last match. He'll always say that he beat Goldberg in his last match. Like it's just that sort of moniker for him at that point. I think he's just gonna really just sort of like add that to his sort of ego at the moment. Whereas LA Knight, I feel like is that sort of more like he'll use it as just a benefit to himself rather than sort of like
Yeah,
playing on the fact that it's an egotistical move, sort of say. So I think it would benefit Knight massively if he was to go up against Cena and he was to win, just because it can skyrocket him. So whether that's without or with the IC title, obviously Dom has the final say. Well, not final say, but like the last say before this,
yeah.
up until that point. So I guess we really see what happens from there. But yeah, I think whoever does win, whether it's Gunter or Knight, they have to beat Cena, surely, right?
Yeah, I think Gunther winning against Cena, especially for the IC title. It kind of like the new. We talked about this off air a bit, but kind of like the new legend killer, if you will. Gunther taking out some pretty big names, if that were to be the case. And then LA Knight, I think it would just kind of be like everyone's been wanting him been wanting to see him kind of in that main event picture. And although it would only be for the IC title, assuming that's the case, it would just feel a bit different this time because it was Cena's last match, and now he has a title on him once again. It at least feels like we're moving in the right direction. So that to me would be a big deal. But yeah, looking forward to that. Still crazy to me that that final match will be on Saturday night's main event. But I guess in the meantime, we'll see if Dom can take back the title. It's kind of for me, it's kind of between a rock and a hard place. If Dom is to beat him, then it feels like that moment was just to get the title on John, which obviously we all know it was. But if he just throws it right back to Dom, then it feels a little less important. Whereas if we get to the main event and he still has the IC title, then there's your rocket and there's your hard place, and the hard place now being, well, would assume he's going to lose that at Saturday night's main event, then as you alluded to, then he has to vacate it. And that seems like a bit anticlimactic. But any preferences on how they do those last two matches?
Personally, no, don't have a preference to it. I think that either way, regardless, I think that it's a big opportunity for whoever does win this tournament to just go against John Cena. The IC title being on the line, I guess it'd be kind of nice if it was LA Knight, but if it's Gunter, I don't think he needs that. So yeah, obviously we're treating those two as our final two anyway. Still, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not necessary. If Dom wins it, I don't so much have a problem with that. I don't really see it as a big deal. It was just to give Cena his Grand Slam championship, which obviously is something that he absolutely deserves throughout the course of his career.
Yeah.
So yeah, it it's not the biggest deal for me personally, but it would be cool for LA Knight especially. I think that's the main thing here. If it's Gunter in the final, I don't really see the point of having the IC title on the line. But if it's Knight, then I think it would help. I would say.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I personally don't want to see the title back on Dom, but and if he does win it right back, then it feels like it was super obvious it was for that main that just to get John Cena the title, which it obviously was anyways, like we've already said. But yeah, curious to see. I'm excited to see who they come up with and what they kind of build up. And basically, that whole Saturday night main event's supposed to be NXT branded, so really looking forward to that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all we have for this episode of If We're Being Honest. Ton to look forward to there, and we'll probably have another episode kind of after all said and done, just kind of talk about that if we don't hit it enough on the Saturday Night Main Event reactions, which we may do at that point anyway. So yeah, with that, if you have any thing that we've missed here, or you think that you have the clear cut winner and how they're going to book it, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, as that helps us out tremendously. But for now, this has been the latest episode of If We're Being Honest and the Push with Nick and KP. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.